It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Monday, May 9th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that is starting to get the draft lottery jitters.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
Your Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, once again. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here as always with Russ Cohen, who's on Twitter at Sportsology. Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. You can follow us on Twitter at Locked On Flyers. You'll keep up to date on all the Flyers news and our episodes. You can also email the show at lockedonflyers@gmail.com. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. We are going to start today's show with the news about Ivan Fedotov and a couple of other Flyers, interesting things that came out at the end of last week. We are going to start getting ready for tomorrow's draft lottery, playing a little game, and then it's Monday, so we'll have our nemesis of the week. Locked On Flyers is free and available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, wherever you're listening right now. So hit that subscribe button and you will get all of our episodes here on the Locked On Podcast Network. All right, Russ, so we got huge news over the weekend, and I say that literally and figuratively, given Ivan Fedotov's height. But he did sign a 1-year ELC with the Flyers, and those are the rules. If you're 24
Yep.
years old or older, you have to sign a 1-year ELC if you haven't played in the league yet. So he did so for $925,000 for the one season. We've been talking about Fedotov for a while now on the show in terms of the possibility of him coming over and what that might look like. And we got word from Chuck Fletcher in his end of season press conference that it was a priority. And lo and behold, they got it done.
Yeah, who knows where he's going to be flying through. He's probably going to have to connect from a few different places to get this done, but it's good. It's good to see. Again, we're going to have to cut him some slack and see how long it takes him to adjust to North America. But I will bristle by saying where I see online some writers are saying they still might hire a backup, an NHL backup, because they don't know about Fedotov. But my feeling is, well, you still have Sandstrom too. Like, if you really did want to save somewhere, backup goalie is the place you could save. Like, I'm sure if Fedotov is not 100%, you let him have like 3 phantom starts, but big deal.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think that, we'll talk about what it means for Felix Sandstrom and the goalie depth here, but I think if we have Ivan Fedotov as our backup, that is a huge cost savings. And we know that we're in cap trouble
Yeah.
this year. And I think, if they can get him NHL ready by the start of the season, I am all for it because, we talked a lot about his success at the Olympics. He was a silver medalist for Team Russia with a 1.85 goals against average, a 937 save percentage in that tournament. And I'm sorry, that was his playoff results in the KHL playoffs. But in the Olympics, in 6 games, he had a 1.61 goals against average and a 943 save percentage. So even better. He really only had one down game in
Yeah.
that tournament. And it was really a team failure, I thought, in that one particular match that they lost. So,
And that was on NHL ice. So,
yep,
that is an
yep.
introduction to it.
Yeah, so he does have experience on the smaller ice. Had a really successful season in the KHL with their team winning the championship. And so I think that he is ready to go. I think that, like you said, there'll be some adjustment here.
Yeah,
But
communication, things like
Mhm,
that. If he gets a start or two at Lehigh, I'm even okay with that. Fine.
exactly. Now, what it means for Felix Sandstrom, Sandstrom is a Group 6 UFA this offseason, so the Flyers will have to sign him, but I'm not sure there's a huge market out there for Sandstrom for him to test that market. He might. he might choose to do that, but I do think that the Flyers will make a good faith effort to sign him. And between Fedotov and Sandstrom, one of them is your third string, who plays a lot of games with the Phantoms. And, maybe they switch back and forth for a little bit until they figure out who it is. But I do think they're going to have to work to get a decent contract for Sandstrom.
They will, and they should make that a priority, because if they lose Sandstrom just because, no guarantee Fedotov is, going to stay beyond 2 years. Even if he signs, I think he gets one more year, right, with our RFA rights, something like that. And he'll probably double his salary, even if he just has a mediocre year. Yeah. So the Flyers do need to still keep Sandstrom.
They do. But I think that he's affordable. So between the two of them, I think the Flyers are actually in really good shape goaltending wise, which is good because they're not in good shape in a lot of areas. So, assuming they can get a deal done with Felix Sandstrom, I think we're in good shape going into next fall. But, speaking of the cap, as we just were, the Flyers were deemed officially over the cap for last season due to a couple of performance incentive bonuses that got handed out, one to Joel Farabee, one to Ronnie Attard. And so the Flyers will have $82,305,000 to work with next season, which, it's only just under 300,000 less, but that could mean a lot this year.
It could, but I'm not going to kill them for that. I'd rather talk about their hirings. I liked one of the hirings, and I didn't like one of the others.
Well, it is interesting because we talk about the closed circle of hockey people, and trying to figure out ways to get more people opportunities in this league. And the Flyers announced their hiring of Sami Kapanen, a former Flyers player, as a head of European player development, which is not a bad thing.
That's a good thing.
It's a very good thing. I think Sammy will do a great job. He's just a known entity. And then we have Kyle Shiro, who is, the grandson of Fred Shiro, getting a scouting position.
Yeah, that's the one where, okay, if you want to hire a scout that is a legacy person, do it with somebody with experience. The last thing this team needs is an inexperienced scout that now you have to go and train and take away from some of your other scouting because now you got to teach this guy how to do it. Like, it's just, to me, it's the wrong year to do it. Like, they really need to hit the ground running this year, especially with everything they've got put into the 23 draft. And I would rather hire a scout that has experience. In this instance, I'm not saying you can never hire a scout with no experience. I'm just saying I think it's a bad time to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about Kyle Shiro's hockey knowledge or experience.
No,
so
me neither.
I am not going to judge him individually, but
I'm not judging him. I'm judging the process.
Right, exactly. That it just speaks to an overall lack of creativity in terms of who you're looking at for these positions overall. And criticize it or not criticize it, it's a fact that these hires are not creative.
It's definitely a fact.
I did, however, really like Sami Kapanen's presser that he had. I thought he had some really good things to say. He talked about Samu Tuomala's development thus far and really recognizing that he had a rough year.
It was an abysmal year. It wasn't rough. It was abysmal. It was the worst kind of year you could have for a prospect that you have high hopes for because he barely played.
It's true, but I think having a guy like Sammy around could help him recover from this year. And he was asked specifically about that, and I thought he had good things to say in terms of how do you turn things around when you've had a really bad year. And Sami Kapanen was part of one of the worst Flyers teams up until this past year that they've had. And he talked a little bit about how they turned things around the following year in conjunction with some organizational changes and personnel that were brought in. And so I think he has a good head on his shoulders, and I think he'll do well by our prospects over in Europe.
Yes, but I think the only thing that worries me about this, because Sammy is a guy in Europe, is that they're going to let Tuomala play in Europe again. And honestly, based on the fact that he barely played this year and was completely out of place in the AHL, he really needs to be in junior hockey in North America. He really does.
Yeah, that's an interesting take on it. I think there are pros and cons to both in terms of him being more comfortable and, feeling at home where he's trying to turn things around versus coming to North America and trying to do it in a little more isolated fashion. I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's just
I
it's
think,
more games. It's
yeah.
just he needs to make up the game somehow. That's a big thing.
Yeah, well, there are pros and cons to both, and I'm
Yep.
sure Sammy Kapanen will be part of that decision-making process over this offseason. We are going to turn our attention to the draft lottery coming up next, but first we're going to hear about our friends at Bet Online.
BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your sports betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's Stanley Cup playoffs, basketball playoffs, and the Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today to use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast. It's nightly recaps of every NHL game with analysis from all our local experts, and it's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, Russ, starting to get a little nervous about the draft lottery happening tomorrow night at 6:30 Eastern. And we started talking about this in a little bit more detail last week. In fact, on last Monday's show, we talked about it because if you recall, Steve Kornacki showed up on
Yep.
the broadcast for the last Flyers game and talked through all the statistics and the percentages and probabilities to figure out where the Flyers might likely end up. And so we thought we would kind of go through what the most likely scenarios were
Mhm.
and randomly see what a pick selection might look like using Tankathon. We're going to link Tankathon in the show notes for you. It's a great resource for all the major sports, actually, in terms of draft simulation and lottery order simulation, and you can even look at a mock draft according to what they think the rankings are.
Mhm.
It's a great site. And so you can just click a button, as I do very often, to see if the Flyers might move up in this draft or where they might end up. And I will say that my experience kind of matches with the percentages that we talked about. And so the most likely percentage for the Flyers to get is the 5th overall pick. And
Yep.
so, almost every time I click on that lottery simulator on Tankathon, the Flyers get bumped down because
I
somebody moved up.
I've done a few too, and it's like fifth is like what's happening.
Yeah, like honestly, at least half of the time, if not more than that. And so I just did it right now. And the Flyers, yep, dropped to the 5th spot, where unfortunately the New Jersey Devils have now received the first overall pick. So Seattle is in the number 2 spot. Montreal gets bumped down to the 3 slot. Arizona's in the 4 slot, and the Flyers are at 5. So now that the Flyers are at 5, who do you pick?
Well, I think based on the teams you just told me, I think they'll have a choice between Juracek, David Juracek, Connor Geeky, Jonathan Lekkerimäki, Joakim Kemmel, or maybe they have Simone Nemec there. If it's me, I'm going with Lekkerimäki because you saw. I mean, you knew I was very high on him before the recent under 18s, and he had
Mm-hmm.
15 points I think in the under 18s. He was unbelievable. So based on that, I'm going to go with the guy who I think is the best scorer. Now, Connor Geeky's a natural center. He's 6'4". I think the Flyers might lean towards that, but I'm just giving you my pick.
Yeah, I think it might be a recency bias for me, but I think Joakim Kemmel might be my pick
Okay.
there, just because we talked about him most
Mm-hmm.
recently, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
excited about his potential. And
That's a good pick there. Believe me, if he's there, I take him.
Yeah, I just think, the other guys, again, I think New Jersey is going to absolutely go for Shane Wright, obviously. And I just think the way things are going, Logan Cooley will probably go to Nemec is going to go 3 or 4. I would say Savoy or Slavkovsky are going to be the other two to choose from that'll go up there. And I feel like Kemmel has that edge for me in that slot.
Yeah, if he's there, I mean, it's certainly a good spot to be in. It's certainly a good place to take him. Again, could be a terrific NHLer. Now, if they're looking for defense, and then you're going to go with either Jiricek or Nemec. Now, if they're both off the board, then I would go with the offensive player. I like Matejchuk the next best as a defenseman, and he's really good, but I would rather get the better scorer at that point.
All right, so the next most likely scenario, based on my very many clicks on Tankathon, is that the Flyers don't move at all, and that either Seattle, Arizona, Montreal reshuffle, or nobody moves at all. And so if the Flyers get one spot higher, who are you taking?
Well, you could be in Slavkovsky territory there, and I know the Flyers would certainly like the size, but also the scoring ability. I think if Slavkovsky is taken and somehow that's Savoy, I jump on Savoy.
Same. I think if Savoy is on the table, he's my first choice.
Yep.
At number 4.
Never look back.
Yeah, I just don't think there's anybody else that could potentially be available that's going to be the right choice. I think Savoy just has the right skill set, and I think that he would just add so much to what the Flyers are at least theoretically trying to build.
Yeah, no, I mean, look,
moving forward,
he could be a center. Even if he's not, he's playing both positions. He's a high energy, high motor guy. He's positive in the room, and he's a terrific creative hockey player. Like, why wouldn't you want him?
Yeah. All right, so the next most likely scenario in all of my clicking is the worst case scenario, where 2 teams move up. One of the ones that is at least the most palatable of any of the options of them is Anaheim getting that number 1 pick, and then a team like New Jersey will move up to the number 2 slot, and then the 3 that are above us stay there. So the Flyers are in the 6th spot, and I worry about what would take place in that scenario, just because I think I would have the hardest time picking at 6.
Yeah, it makes it harder because I think there you're talking about Geeky, Lekaramaki. You could be talking about Jiricek.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you bring Nazar into the conversation. But I think that's what we're talking about.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, my gut says Jiricek is the pick that they'll go for.
Yeah, if he falls to that, I have to take him.
Yeah,
I would.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just not sure that taking a Nazar or even Brad Lambert is as wise a move as taking Jiricek.
Well, Lambert's one of the best athletes in this draft. There's no question about it. Whether he could play center or not, we'll see. He has all the attributes to do it. The big thing with Lambert is his belief is he's playing up right now in age. So even though the points may not be there, he's getting the experience, but the points haven't been there in like a year and a half. So that's the thing that's worrying me a little about Lambert.
Yeah, I think he'll just take longer to get to the NHL.
Yeah, he could.
Of any of this top group, like the middle of the top 10, I think that he has the longest journey to the NHL.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, now would the Flyers look at Cutter Gauthier there? I know someone like other online people have him there and pundits, but my feeling is this: I love Cutter Gauthier, and I love the shot, and he competes and he skates well. I just don't know if I could take him there because I don't know if that shot's going to really get me past 50 points every year. If it does, then I'm taking him, but I don't know if it does.
Yeah, I don't know either. I just don't. The Flyers are very interesting, and especially the Chuck Fletcher Flyers, because to me, they seem to be willing to take on guys that are more of a project. But at the same time, like this team needs to get better fast. And so,
Yeah, but you can't draft to get better fast. They've already tried to do that. I think that's why they took Tuamala, honestly.
right. And that's what I'm saying is that, and I'm not saying this is what they should do, but in
Okay.
terms of my experience of what they will do,
Right.
they're going to try and pick somebody that's closer to the NHL.
Yeah, and that's why I think Slafkovsky plays heavy into it, into what they're trying to do. Now, if you wanted to really take the guy you have to wait the longest for, but could really pay off, it would be Danila Yurov, but who's playing for Magnitogorsk. But are they going to do that? Probably not.
Probably not. No, that's not a pick I see them making in any scenario, to be honest. Even though he does have a huge upside.
Oh, it's really, he's a really good hockey player. But you're going to be waiting 4 years at least, maybe 5.
Exactly. All right. So again, in all of my tankathon clicking, which I have done very frequently, the Flyers do move up quite often. But of all the times they move up, I would say 98% of the time it's to the number 2 slot. It's virtually
2 is tough, man. If they're in 2,
I
I'm going to
know.
laugh. I'm going to
I
laugh.
know. I will too, because it is the worst pick, I think, in this draft. Not that they won't get a great player, because they will, no matter what. Obviously,
It's the easiest one. You know what it is? It's the easiest one for everybody to second guess down the road.
yeah, lots of 2020 hindsight going on, especially with our recent history and Nolan Patrick. I think the pressure of a number 2 pick for the Flyers would be exceedingly huge. And so, I think that for me, if I'm in the number 2 slot, I feel like the logical choice or the default choice at this point is Logan Cooley, but I would not be surprised if they went with Slafkovsky.
If they go Slafkovsky over Cooley, it's foolish, and I'll tell you why. Cooley's a center.
Listen, I didn't say should.
No,
I said
know.
would.
I'm just playing that devil's advocate card now in advance. You're passing on a natural center. You're passing on the guy with the best hands in the draft. You're passing on a guy that I think fans would easily identify with because he's an American guy from Pittsburgh. That's easy. I think Slafkovsky will take a little longer. Is Slafkovsky maybe a bit more talented? Maybe as a scorer, but Cooley does everything. Face-offs, everything.
And honestly, I think the utter joy Flyers fans will get from drafting a Pittsburgh kid,
yes,
is tremendous. Like,
because they're going to be showing Cooley meeting Sidney Crosby when he was a kid playing in his hockey league. Like, it's perfect.
It's so perfect, and I love that for the fan base. All right, well, keeping our fingers crossed that we do move up or we get to, the 4th or 5th pick. We don't want that 6th pick is the worst case scenario, but we'll see how it goes. We'll obviously be talking more about that on tomorrow's show. And we'll get to our Nemesis of the week coming up next. But summer is just around the corner. And with that, you're going to need some food on the go. And Built Bars are the perfect snack to take with you on family vacations. And you can throw them in your bags or a kid's backpack. The best part about Built Bars is that they're healthy and delicious. There's no more sacrificing food for health. With Built Bar, you can have delicious treats and be healthy. And have you tried their puffs yet? They come in flavors like banana cream pie and even churro. They're only 140 calories. And if that's not enough flavor for you, then try a mixed box. The mixed box comes with 12 flavors of bars and puffs. They make sure there's something in there for everyone. And all Built Bars and puffs are covered in 100% real chocolate. My favorite flavor is Cherry Barcia, so I certainly hope they include that in my delivery. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. If you compare that to a candy bar, you're going to have 240 calories, a ton of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. Go to Built.com to get all of your favorites: banana cream pie, raspberry, double chocolate, and so much more. New flavors are coming out all the time. Check them out at built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15 and you'll get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. All right, Russ, it's time for our Nemesis of the week. If you are newer to the program, every Monday we look at what's coming up this week for the Flyers and in the world of hockey, and we decide who is our sworn enemy, what is the thing that is hanging over our heads. We name it and we call it out. Last week, we talked about having to highlight playoff teams that aren't the Flyers. We had a great series of bandwagon interviews.
They were fun.
With our fellow Locked On hosts. If you want to go back and listen to them in terms of who we wanted to bandwagon for these playoffs, but still sad that it was not the Flyers. I think it's very clear based on this episode so far that at least my nemesis of this week is getting lottery jitters and the post-lottery angst that will come with knowing what spot you're in and wondering who the Flyers are going to pick for a couple of months. We got to wait until July to find that out. So I think that is probably the worst part of it.
Yeah, not for me, only because I've been working on this draft for 5 months already, and we'll work on it for a couple more. So I just feel comfortable that this is part of normal life for me, but I get it for you, right? Because I'm always writing about it. I'm always checking out new things, looking at new video.
Same though. That's the thing is I spend all this time digging into all these prospects, and then I start really digging into later rounds and saying, who are they, who are some potential
Then here's my recommendation, because I get to talk to other people who are invested in this draft, broadcasted, people that I'm going to broadcast with, other people that are talk to more people in the industry about the draft. Maybe that'll help you feel better about it. Maybe that's the way to do it, but I'll give you my nemesis. It is ESPN. Please get me through these games. Make every game a TNT game. Somehow, some way, make every game a TNT game, and man, the playoffs would be so much better. Some of these ESPN broadcasts, they're testing me, man. I can't tell you how many of them I have to mute. I just do.
It's a little rough. I agree with you. But, talking about the draft and all of that, we're going to have some experts on this show as well and bring some other opinions into the fray in terms of
head to head. I like that.
and who the Flyers should pick in the first round, and then looking at, again, some other potential gems in later rounds that we should maybe keep an eye on. So that'll be a ton of fun when we get to do that.
One of the quick note,
forward to bringing that to you.
So the last time I was at the Montreal draft, which I was, it was the Ryan Ellis draft. Just saying.
Well, that's bad luck.
Just saying. Right. Throwing it out there.
Our Flyers fun thing, of course, is Tankathon, which we referred to earlier. So you'll have that link to start getting nervous yourself if you haven't already. We'll be back again tomorrow. We are going to talk to Maddie Campbell from Broad Street Hockey about the Phantom season, kind of do a debrief on that with her, which will be fantastic. And we're going to have a little quick post-lottery reaction mini-sode. So look at your feeds right after the order is determined, and we'll have our reaction for you there. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. If you have somebody that you want us to profile that we haven't yet, let us know, or let us know your feelings about where the Flyers wound up in the draft. You can tweet us at LockedOnFlyers, or you can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
You made us your first listen today. Now make your next listen Locked On NHL. From first round matchups to each Stanley Cup final game, Locked On NHL covers the playoffs like no other. Hear the latest news and opinions from local experts every Monday through Friday. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Have a great day.